Welcome, everyone. One of the best ways to prepare for the IELTS speaking test is to see it in action. That's exactly what we're doing today with this complete mock test from Spinta. As you listen, think about what the candidate does well and where they could improve. Afterwards, we'll compare notes with a full performance breakdown. Let's begin.
Hello, my name is Sarah. Can you tell me your full name, please?
Hello, Sarah. My name is Liam O'Connor. You can call me Liam. Nice to meet you.
Where are you from, Liam?
I am originally from Galway, which is on the west coast of Ireland. I moved to Dublin about 7 years ago for work, and I still visit my parents back home whenever I can, usually for holidays and family gatherings.
Right. Now I am going to ask you some questions about yourself. Let's talk about your home. Do you live in a house or an apartment?
I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in Dublin city centre. It's on the 4th floor of a converted Georgian building, so it has high ceilings and lots of natural light. I like it because it's compact but efficient, and everything I need is within walking distance.
What do you like most about your home?
What I like most is the view from the living room window. You can see a little patch of the river and some old stone bridges. It gives me a quiet moment in the morning when I'm having coffee. Also, the neighbor downstairs is a retired teacher who often shares stories about the area, which makes the place feel friendly.
Has your home changed much since you moved in?
Yes, it has changed a bit. When I first moved in, the kitchen was very small, so I renovated it to create an open-plan kitchen living area. That was a sensible investment, because I entertain friends and colleagues quite often. The building itself has been restored gradually, and the communal courtyard has been improved, which makes it much more pleasant to spend time outside.
Okay. Now about your family. How many people are there in your immediate family?
There are 4 in my immediate family. My mother, my father, my younger sister, and me. My sister is a primary school teacher and lives close to my parents in Galway. We are fairly close as a family and try to get together most weekends when our schedules allow.
What kind of things do you enjoy doing together?
We enjoy going for long walks along the coast when the weather is fine, having Sunday dinners, and sometimes playing board games in the evening. Holidays are important to us too, and last summer we went camping in the Burren, which was beautiful. We also like cooking together. My mother is an excellent baker, and I often help with savory dishes.
How has your relationship with your family changed over time?
I think the dynamic changed when I moved to Dublin. Initially we spoke less because of the distance and busy lives, but technology helped a lot. We video call regularly and share photos. We've become more intentional about planning visits, so when we meet it's more meaningful. Also, as we've all grown older, conversations are deeper and less about day-to-day trivialities.
Right. Now let's talk about your work or study. Do you work or are you a student?
I work full-time. I'm a product manager at a technology company that develops software for small businesses. My role involves coordinating between engineering teams, designers, and customers to make sure we build features that really meet user needs.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
What I enjoy most is the problem-solving aspect and seeing a product evolve from an idea to something people use daily. I find it rewarding to gather user feedback, prioritize features, and then watch metrics improve after we launch. The collaborative aspect is great too because I learn from different specialists, and that keeps the job interesting.
What is the most difficult part of your job?
The hardest part is balancing conflicting priorities. There are always trade-offs between speed, quality, and resources, and sometimes stakeholders have different expectations. Communicating clearly and making evidence-based decisions helps, but it can be stressful when deadlines are tight.
How do you usually relax after a busy day at work?
I like to go for a run or attend a spin class at the gym. It helps me clear my head. If the weather is bad, I might cook a good meal and read. I also enjoy listening to podcasts about history or technology. On quieter nights, I watch films with a cup of tea, which feels very restorative.
Now let's talk about hobbies. What hobbies do you have?
I enjoy a mix of physical and creative hobbies. Running and cycling keep me active, and I play guitar in a small group with friends. I also like photography. On weekends, I take my camera out to capture landscapes or street scenes. These activities give me balance outside of work and often overlap with social time.
How long have you been playing guitar?
I've been playing guitar since I was about 15, so more than a decade now. I started with simple folk songs and gradually learned more complex pieces. Playing with others taught me to listen and adapt, which is different to playing alone, and it's something I really enjoy.
Has your interest in photography changed over the years?
Yes, initially I was focused on technical perfection, learning camera settings and composition. Over time I've shifted towards capturing moments and moods rather than just perfect shots. Recently I am more interested in storytelling through a series of images rather than just single photographs.
Okay. Tell me about your daily routine on a typical weekday.
On a typical weekday I wake up around 6:30, have a quick coffee and do a short run if time allows. Then I shower and commute to the office, which takes about 20 minutes. My mornings are usually for meetings and prioritizing the day's work, while afternoons are for focused tasks or reviewing prototypes. I try to stop working by 7, cook dinner, and often spend an hour reading or practicing guitar before bed.
Has your routine changed recently?
Yes, since starting a new project my evenings have been busier with catch-up calls, so I made an effort to structure my mornings better to fit in exercise and planning. Also I have been more disciplined about screen-free time before bed, which has improved my sleep.
Finally, in part 1, what are your plans for the future in terms of career?
In the near future, I hope to move into a senior product leadership role, where I can mentor others and shape strategy more broadly. Longer term I would like to work on products that have clear social benefits, maybe in education or healthcare technology. I am also considering a short executive course to strengthen my skills in strategy and people management.
Right. That is the end of part 1. Now I am going to give you a topic for part 2. Here is your card. You will have 1 minute to prepare, and then you should speak for about 2 to 3 minutes. Your topic is, describe a memorable journey you have taken. You should say where you went, why you went there, what you did during the journey, and explain why this journey was memorable for you. You have 1 minute to prepare.
Okay, thank you. I will start. One of the most memorable journeys I've taken was a 3-week road trip around the west coast of Ireland 2 summers ago. I went with 2 close friends because we wanted to disconnect from city life and explore places we hadn't seen. We planned a loose route from Galway down to County Cork, and then up through Kerry and back, but left space for spontaneous stops. We spent our days driving along coastal roads, stopping at small villages, visiting cliffs and beaches, and sometimes hiking inland to get better views. One day we kayaked in a tranquil bay, and another day we visited an old ruin perched on a cliff, where the wind was so strong it felt exhilarating. We also ate at many small local restaurants and chatted with locals who told us stories about the area and its history. What made the journey memorable was the combination of scenery and conversation. There was a sense of freedom in not having a strict itinerary. We had nights in simple B&Bs, where the hosts served homemade breakfasts, and nights in a tent under the stars. I remember one evening when the 3 of us sat around a small bonfire and a musician from the village joined us, playing old songs. That felt very genuine and connected to the culture. Another reason it stands out is personal growth. I had to be adaptable when plans changed due to weather or transport, and those moments taught me patience and how to enjoy the unexpected. The trip also strengthened friendships because we relied on each other when the car broke down briefly and when decisions had to be made on the go. Overall, it was a mix of natural beauty, human contact, and simple pleasures that made it unforgettable. I think the journey influenced how I plan holidays now. I prefer a balance between structure and spontaneity, and I try to include time for conversation and local experiences, rather than only ticking off tourist sites. That is all from me.
I see, thank you. Can I ask one follow-up question? What was the biggest problem you faced on that trip and how did you solve it?
The biggest problem was when our car developed a small mechanical fault in a remote area. We were initially stressed because workshops were closed on Sundays, but we spoke to a local farmer who helped jumpstart the engine and pointed us to a mechanic in the next town. We stayed overnight there, and the mechanic fixed it by the next morning. It taught me the value of staying calm and relying on local knowledge.
Right. One more question. Did this journey change your attitude to travel?
Yes, it did. I became more interested in slower, experience-based travel, rather than rushing to see as many places as possible. The trip made me value quality of interactions and unplanned discoveries. I now put more emphasis on talking to locals, visiting community events, and spending time in one place to really get a feel for it.
Okay, now we will move on to part 3. I'd like to discuss travel and tourism in more depth. Why do you think people travel to other places?
People travel for many reasons. Some seek relaxation and a break from routine. Others want cultural enrichment or to visit family. Economic factors like cheaper flights make travel more accessible, and social media has increased interest in visiting places seen online. There is also an educational element. Travel exposes you to different perspectives and can broaden understanding.
Do you think tourism is always positive for local communities?
Not always. Tourism brings money and jobs, but if it's unmanaged, it can lead to overcrowding, rising living costs, and damage to local culture. For instance, some historic towns become so dependent on tourists that year-round community life diminishes. Responsible tourism strives to balance economic benefits with cultural preservation and environmental protection.
How can governments manage tourism to avoid negative effects?
Governments can implement policies like visitor caps in fragile sites, invest in infrastructure to disperse tourists across regions, and promote off-season travel. Regulation of short-term rentals can help maintain affordable housing for locals. It's important to include local communities in planning, so they share in the benefits and decision-making.
Interesting. How has technology changed the way people plan their trips?
Technology has transformed planning. People use review platforms, apps, and social media for inspiration and booking. Real-time information about transport or weather helps make decisions on the go. However, reliance on online reviews can also create homogeneity in travel choices, where everyone goes to the same popular spots rather than discovering lesser-known places.
Do you think travel will become more sustainable in the future?
I hope so. There is growing awareness about environmental impact, and I see airlines and hotels experimenting with carbon offsetting and energy efficiency. Local initiatives, like community-based tourism and eco-lodges, are gaining traction. But systemic change requires policy, consumer choices, and industry investment, so progress will likely be gradual.
What role do tourists themselves have in protecting environments they visit?
Tourists play a crucial role. Simple behaviors, like following local rules, reducing waste, and choosing responsible operators, can make a difference. Educating travelers before trips helps set expectations. If more people prioritized quality experiences over quantity, there would be less pressure on fragile sites.
How do you think travel influences people's attitudes toward other cultures?
Travel can build empathy by exposing people to different ways of living and thinking. It challenges stereotypes and can foster greater global understanding. However, if travelers only visit curated environments or treat cultures as spectacles, the effect can be superficial. Authentic engagement is what tends to change attitudes meaningfully.
Right. Do you believe that more people working from home will affect tourism?
Yes, the growth of remote work could change tourism patterns. People might take longer trips or combine work with travel, which could spread spending more evenly across the year. On the other hand, if remote workers favor certain destinations, it could lead to new hotspots and possibly strain local resources without adequate planning.
How important is cultural sensitivity when visiting another country?
Cultural sensitivity is very important. Respecting local customs, dressing appropriately, and learning a few phrases in the local language shows consideration. It helps build positive interactions, and reduces the risk of offending people unintentionally. Many communities welcome visitors who make an effort to engage respectfully.
Okay. Finally, do you think tourism will ever return to how it was before the pandemic, or has it changed permanently?
I think some aspects will return, like larger events and mass travel, but others have changed permanently. People value flexibility and cleanliness more, and there is a stronger interest in less crowded experiences. The pandemic accelerated trends like contactless services and virtual tours, which will remain part of the landscape. Overall, tourism will adapt, rather than revert completely.
Right. That is the end of the speaking test. Thank you very much. You can stop speaking now.
Thank you, Sarah. It was a pleasure.
The candidate demonstrated Band 8 level performance. Notable errors included saying it has improved a lot since last year's instead of saying it has improved a lot over recent years or in recent years, saying they might have the resources when the intended phrase was they might have had the resources, and using a phrase like a big challenge, where a more precise term such as a significant challenge would be better. These slips were infrequent and appeared in more complex sentences rather than simple statements, and they did not prevent understanding. Fluency was strong with a smooth, natural flow and appropriate use of discourse markers such as, "What I like most is," and another reason it stands out is, there were minimal hesitations and only occasional self-corrections when clarifying an idea. Vocabulary was precise and varied overall, with words like infrastructure, community-based tourism, and restorative, though there was one example of a less precise word choice. Grammatically, the candidate used complex structures accurately most of the time, including conditionals, relative clauses, and passive constructions. Weaknesses were limited to a few slips in modal verb forms and collocation choices. The Band 8 score is justified because communication was coherent, ideas were well developed and supported with examples, pronunciation and intonation were natural, and vocabulary showed range and flexibility. What prevented a higher score were the small number of non-systematic errors in some complex constructions, and one slightly imprecise lexical choice. To reach the next band level, the candidate should aim to eliminate those occasional slips in advanced structures, use even more precise collocations consistently, and sustain subtle variation in grammatical accuracy under more demanding spontaneous conditions. Thank you for practicing with this IELTS speaking mock test. Visit Spinta for more comprehensive mock tests and personalized feedback to boost your IELTS score.